Welcome to the Transformative Neurotherapy podcast with your host, Dr. Heather Putney, founder and executive director of Transformative Neurotherapy. This is the place where healing happens faster. Because let's face it, your brain doesn't come with an owner's manual until now. Here, we take a holistic approach to brain health, bringing together science, mind-body harmony, and the tools you need to optimize your well-being. Whether you're a high performer, executive, athlete, longevity hacker, or just someone tired of your brain working against you, Dr. Putney is here to help you unlock your full potential. From brain fog to chronic stress, we're covering it all so you can finally experience brain health, mind harmony, and total well-being. Ready to get unstuck? Let's get started.
Aging doesn't have to mean cognitive decline. Discover how neurotherapy helps keep your brain sharp, resilient, and thriving, no matter your age. Welcome, everyone. I am Millie M., co-host and producer here in the studio with Dr. Heather Putney, founder and executive director of Transformative Neurotherapy. Dr. Putney, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am excited to be back with you. Let's jump into today's topic. How does neurotherapy support aging well?
In our last podcast, we talked a lot about neurotherapy and what types of diagnoses respond well to it. And I guess what I want to take a slightly different angle here is once I started playing with these tools, which initially I picked up for my psychotherapy practice, I started learning what a powerful this tool was to actually prevent, cognitive decline and to help optimize our brain functioning. So, how excited is it to be able to give your brain a tune-up and prevent some of these issues? We've got these high functioning executives that are under constant chronic stress, and that causes issues with the brain. That pressure. But what if you could just kind of do a little tune up or a little recharge to kind of keep them going? And so what I love about, neurotherapy or neuromodulation is that we don't only, help people that are, struggling with certain, mental health challenges already, but we can actually really help, large swath of populations in the preventative sector, and especially in the, aging well. And then that's our topic for today.
Absolutely. So how did you start using these tools on older people, and how did you connect it to aging? I know you have a story about your mom. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, this area is near and dear to my heart. My family has some genetic predispositions to Alzheimer's. We actually have it on both sides of the family, and we've watched a lot of family members struggle from this horrible disease. And once I started, like I said, utilizing this tool in my psychotherapy practice, I learned how it could also be helpful, to keep the brain functioning as best as it possibly can to, help prevent suffering. And so, as I've been worried about this for my mother or, even myself and my sister, how can we help our brains, be the healthiest and the sharpest that they can be, as long as they can be. And so this has proved to be an incredible tool. And you want me to tell you the story about my mom?
Absolutely.
So what happened was about a year after starting to practice neurotherapy in my practice. And, when you're learning something new, you get everybody to kind of be your guinea pig. So I practiced brain scans on everybody I could. The holidays, I'm just coming at them with my cat, running away, but, because I'm just trying to learn, and understand and wasn't ready to start charging clients for that yet. Yeah. So my mom, bless her heart, was one of my guinea pigs. And I got a scan on her, one of the first people. And then a year later, we're home for the holidays, it's, Christmas time. And my sister and my mom and I were in the kitchen, kind of prepping all of the stuff and kind of coordinating. And we started noticing that my mom was really struggling with, kind of thinking through and, planning and multitasking, as we're trying to do all these things. And this is something that historically my mom has been really good at. So for some people, they might be like, oh, no big deal. That's always hard. But my mom was amazing at this, and we started to see that she was struggling. And my sister and I both started to panic a little bit. And I asked my mom, I'm like, would you mind coming back up to the clinic so I can do a rescan? And she's like, sure. She's like one of the best, patients you could have. And she's like, absolutely. Let's go check this out. See what we can see. And I found that her brain was more disorganized. She had a slower processing speed than she had the year before. And that made a lot of sense why she was struggling in some of the ways that she was struggling. So I talked with my sister and my dad and my mom, and we came up with a pretty intensive treatment plan to try to get her, back in line, how to get her back on gear. And so we started doing that. And, about 4 or 5 weeks later, my dad, I'm really nervous. I'm checking in with all the symptoms. How's this going? How's this going? What are you noticing here and there? And this, and I was talking to my dad. She's like, honey, I think we're going to have to slow down these treatments. I was like, why? What's going on? Freaking out. He's like, well, your mom and I watch Jeopardy every night, and she's kicking my butt now, and it's really hurting my self-esteem. So we need to back this off a little.
Oh, my goodness, not the competitor in him saying she's getting a little too smart.
He was like, because her recall was so much faster. She knew she knew it, but it just took longer for the stuff to come out. And she's a really bright lady, but oh yeah, she was kicking his butt. I was like, well, you ready to start to optimize your brain too?
So now you got 2 clients out of it, huh?
No, he was not the medical type, but my mom, like I said, she was a phenomenal client, and she kind of did all the things. And then I asked her, I was like, so how do you notice a change in your daily life? Right. And she said one of the first things she noticed that she wasn't expecting was that driving was easier. She's like, I didn't realize how hard multitasking was,
right.
And how much multitasking actually happens with driving, noticing where someone is in the lane and kind of, keeping all these different things in mind while driving. And she's like, I just noticed that I was less stressed driving. It felt easier. She never had any accidents and nothing was wrong, but she just like, it just was less stressful. And I was like, oh, wow, I never would have thought about that. And then in the holidays that have passed since, like she's kind of old mom, just kind of doing the things and, not struggling in those ways. But yeah, those are just some of the little ways that it's, improved her life. And another thing that we do though, is that after we do a certain number of treatments, we rescan to make sure that we're on target, and then we can, customize and shift and, change the protocols as we need. So I've been tracking her brain as she's been doing this over time, and just watching, I've got the data that shows that her brain is improving, and she's, back on track. And so right now she's just in a maintenance mode. She just comes in every, maybe once a month or so, gets a couple of treatments, and she's doing great.
What an amazing testimony, and to have it come from someone so near and dear to you. It's like you have just an in-home person that can speak to just how well this program works for people. And is that the common brain-related challenges that you see people face as they age? It's just their slower processing, their memory, things of that nature?
Yes, that's some of the most common. As we age and our arteries age as well, we don't get as great of blood flow to our brain. So then you're not getting as much, nutrients and some of the, the best stuff. And so that can kind of contribute to a little bit of, decline in our brains over time. What's neat about neuromodulation that we do, we have 3 different types of stimulating treatments, all of which increase blood flow to the brain. And so as we increase blood flow to the brain and we're activating the brain, we're increasing neurogenesis, we're increasing the nutrients, to the brain, we're reducing inflammation through our LED light therapy and our pulse electromagnetic field. So we've got all these different things that we are doing that just, beefs up the brain. We also send certain frequencies to kind of speed up and, help the brain, process a little bit faster. And so it kind of just keeps people on top of their game. Where they're feeling a little brain foggy, a little bit out of it. And it's just like, it's like the brain's getting out of sync and we're helping it get back in sync. And so they just feel clearer.
Love that, because there's definitely so many different applications to having a clearer brain as you get older. And as you said, I also have some family history of Alzheimer's and dementia on both sides of my family. So it's just such encouraging information to know that there are things that we can do aside from puzzles and brain teasers and things like that to make sure that our brains are operating optimally. Thanks again, Dr. Putney.
Don't get me wrong, those things are still great to do, but bringing in the extra blood flow and the nutrients and the neurogenesis to your brain, and you add those together, your ability to do those puzzles are going to skyrocket.
You got any other healthy habits that people can participate in just to help the effects of neurotherapy?
I mean, yes, it's basically all of the the things that kind of keep you healthy, moving your body, staying physically active, eating, healthier, more, holistic types of foods and not the super ultra processed, stuff like that.
Makes perfect sense. Thanks, Dr. Putney. Such valuable insights. We'll catch you next time for more transformative conversations.
You've been listening to the Transformative Neurotherapy Podcast with Dr. Heather Putney. Remember, your brain isn't supposed to hold you back. It's supposed to power you forward. So stop letting it crash your party and start letting it do its job. If you're ready to optimize brain health, sharpen your focus, and age like a fine wine, schedule your free consultation today at transformativeneurotherapy.org or call us at 412-204-7397. Because here, healing happens faster. See you next time.